It was supposed to be a celebration, a lavish baby shower filled with champagne and laughter. But for me, it quickly became a moment of reckoning. Standing there in an old dress, holding a glass of tap water, I was an outsider in my own family's world. My sister Julia, grinning like an angel, made a shocking announcement in front of 300 guests that sent a wave of laughter through the room. But what I didn't know was that this party, this moment, was about to change everything. In just 2 minutes, the game would be up, and Julia wouldn't have a clue what was coming. 3 weeks ago, my life was simple but focused. I lived in a modest studio apartment, small but enough for me, with a view of a busy street that never seemed to quiet down. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The furniture was a mix of hand-me-downs and thrift store finds, and my kitchen was tiny, just enough to make a cup of coffee and microwave a frozen meal. The walls were lined with books and notebooks, and the only decoration was a calendar on the wall with a single goal written on it in bold letters: escape. I wasn't trying to escape from life, but from the trap of renting forever. I'd spent the last 5 years carefully setting aside any extra money I could find. Every bonus, every overtime shift, every refund from taxes, it all went straight into one account, my freedom fund. It wasn't glamorous and it wasn't easy, but I was determined. I could have gone out for drinks, I could have bought new clothes or splurged on a nice dinner, but I didn't. I sacrificed the small pleasures for a bigger goal. There were times when it felt like I wasn't living at all. I stayed home on weekends, avoided the sales, and made do with whatever I had. The result of all this self-discipline was a number I hadn't dared dream of: $22,000. I'd made it. It was enough for a down payment on a small condo. It was my ticket out of the rental cycle, the constant churn of handing over a paycheck each month, knowing that I was paying someone else's mortgage instead of building my own future. This money was my plan to stop being trapped. This was going to be my fresh start. I remember the day I saw that number on my screen. I sat there for a moment, just staring at it, feeling a rush of pride. I could finally picture it, a small, cozy place to call my own, not too big, but just enough. I'd be free. No more checking my bank account and worrying if I could make rent. No more scrounging around for loose change just to buy a cup of coffee. The dream I'd been chasing for so long was now within reach. But that night everything changed. It was late, around 11:42 p.m. I was sitting at my kitchen table eating instant noodles out of a plastic bowl, my laptop open in front of me. I was working on some spreadsheets, trying to plan my next steps. It was another night of calculations, of figuring out how much more I needed to save, how soon I could start looking at properties. It was all part of the plan, all part of my dream. Then my phone rang. I wasn't expecting a call at this hour. In fact, I almost didn't answer. When I saw my sister Julia's name flash on the screen, I hesitated. Julia and I didn't talk much, at least, not unless she needed something. But she was family, and when family calls, you pick up right. So I swiped the screen, and the moment I heard her voice, I knew something was wrong. Her voice was shaky, frantic, barely above a whisper. "Gabby, please, you have to help me, the baby. Oh God, the baby." I felt my heart drop into my stomach. Julia was crying, sobbing so hard, it was hard to understand her at first. I tried to stay calm, but her panic was contagious. I could barely get a word in before she rushed to explain. "They found a fetal heart defect," she gasped. "Hypoplastic left heart syndrome. They need to perform surgery, but they won't do it unless we can pay the deposit. They're asking for $22,000 up front. They said if we don't have it, the baby might not survive the night. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Hypoplastic left heart syndrome. I didn't know what it was, but it sounded bad. It sounded urgent. My brain was spinning, trying to process what she was telling me. This wasn't a typical request for money. This was a medical emergency, and Julia was desperate. She was begging me, pleading with me to help. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know the first thing about medical costs or hospital deposits, but I knew this much: if there was even the slightest chance that this baby was in danger, I couldn't stand by and do nothing. Please, Gabby, we need you. Mom doesn't have it. I don't have it. You're the only one who can help us. You're the only one who can save her. Her words were a lifeline, and she knew exactly what strings to pull. She wasn't just asking for money. She was asking for the life of an innocent child. And as much as I wanted to be rational, as much as I wanted to stop and think it through, I couldn't. There was no way I could turn my back on that. I didn't hesitate. I logged into my bank account, my fingers shaking as I typed in the numbers she gave me. I watched the amount in my account drop to zero. I hit send without another thought. The money I had worked for, the money I had sacrificed for so long, it was gone. "Thank you," she whispered on the other end of the line, her voice breaking. "You just saved her life." And with that, the phone call ended. I sat there staring at the empty bowl of noodles in front of me. My stomach was in knots, but I told myself it was the right thing to do. Family is everything, right? And I had just saved a life. I told myself that money was just paper, that it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. What mattered was that I had helped. What mattered was that I had done something good. The moment Julia's words hit me, I felt like I was trapped in a whirlwind, unable to think straight. The panic in her voice was palpable, like she was standing right next to me, desperate for help, for someone to take charge. I could hear the raw fear in every syllable. It wasn't just a plea for money. It was a plea for mercy, for the life of a baby who was still so small, so fragile. Her voice quivered with emotion, and I could feel the weight of her fear settling into my chest. In that moment, the world around me seemed to disappear. All I could focus on was her and the urgency of what she was saying. "Please, Gabby," she choked out. "I don't know what to do. They won't operate unless we can pay the deposit. They said the baby could die if we don't act fast. I can't lose her. I can't do this without you." Every word was a punch to the gut. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think clearly. I tried to hold myself together, but my mind was racing. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to ask if this was really happening. But I didn't. Because at the core of it all, I knew that if what she was saying was even remotely true, I had no choice. How could I live with myself if I didn't help? I didn't question her. I didn't ask for proof or clarification. I didn't stop to consider the implications. I only heard her words, the desperation, the pleading, the promise that this was a matter of life and death. And how could I say no to that? How could anyone? I remember feeling like I was drowning in the weight of it all, but also deep down, a part of me felt like this was what I was meant to do. Family comes first, right? That's what I had always been taught. No matter what, no matter the cost, you help family when they need you the most. And Julia needed me. She was my sister, and this was her child, her blood. I could hear her voice again, soft and broken, as she repeated the same words. "You're the only one who can do this, Gabby. Please, we need you. I need you." And in that moment, I did what I had always done. what I'd been conditioned to do. I did it because I felt responsible, because I loved my family, because the guilt of turning my back on them would have eaten me alive. So I gave in. I remember my fingers trembling as I reached for my phone. I opened my bank app and stared at the balance, trying to steady my breath. The money I had saved, the money that had taken years to accumulate, the money that I had been so careful with, it was all in that account. The number on the screen had been a symbol of my independence, my escape from the cycle of living, paycheck to paycheck, and now it was going to disappear. But I didn't hesitate. I punched in the routing number she had given me, my mind numb to the consequences. The money was leaving, but I couldn't think about that. I couldn't think about anything except the fact that this baby, this innocent child, was in danger. I clicked send, and just like that, my entire savings, my entire future was gone. For a brief second, I stared at the screen, waiting for the confirmation, the sinking realization that I had just given away everything I had worked for. But it didn't hit me then, not immediately. Instead, I felt a strange sort of peace. I had done the right thing. I had saved a life. Julia's voice broke through the silence. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. "You just saved her life." I let out a shaky breath, trying to hold it together. My heart was pounding, my head spinning. I couldn't quite process what had just happened, but a small, prideful part of me whispered that I had done something good. Family is forever right. That's what I kept telling myself. I had done what needed to be done. The call ended and I sat there alone in my apartment, staring at the empty space around me. The room felt strangely quiet, the weight of the moment sinking in. I tried to reassure myself that I had done the right thing, that the money was just paper and that family mattered more. But deep down, something didn't sit right. There was an unease in my stomach, a gnawing sensation that I couldn't shake off. 2 days passed. I didn't hear from Julia. The texts I sent went unanswered. I kept checking my phone, hoping for an update. Was the surgery a success? Was the baby okay? I told myself it was just a busy hospital, that no news was good news. But I couldn't help the anxiety that crept in. I was scrolling through Instagram one night, trying to distract myself from the silence when I saw it. It wasn't on Julia's profile. She had blocked me from viewing her stories, probably to keep up the lie. But it was on the profile of a mutual friend, a pink circle at the top of my feed, a new story posted. I tapped it, my heart hammering in my chest. The video filled my screen. The setting wasn't a hospital. It wasn't even a waiting room. It was a ballroom, beautiful and grand, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a manicured garden. The laughter, the clinking of champagne glasses, it sounded so wrong. And then I heard Julia's voice. She was laughing, bright and triumphant. "Look at these ice sculptures," she said, panning the camera over a massive frozen swan. "Can you believe we actually pulled this off? Thank God for silent sponsors who are too stupid to ask questions." The video flipped to her smiling face, wearing a white silk dress, a flute of sparkling cider in her hand. She looked healthy, happy, as though nothing was wrong, as though nothing had ever been wrong. I froze. My thumb hovered over the screen as the reality set in. This wasn't a hospital. This wasn't a life or death emergency. This was a party. My $22,000 wasn't saving a life. It was buying ice sculptures, flowers, and champagne for a baby shower. I felt a rush of blood drain from my face. My stomach dropped. I had been manipulated, lied to, taken for a fool. The money I had given her, The money I had sacrificed everything for it was gone. Not to save a child, but to fuel her selfish, extravagant celebration. It wasn't just the money. It was the betrayal, the realization that I had been used, that my emotions had been weaponized against me. I wasn't saving a life. I had been tricked into saving her pride, her image, her perfect little world. I sat there, my phone in hand, staring at the screen, feeling the world around me close in. 2 days had passed since I had sent that money. 2 days with no word from Julia. My texts went unanswered. The silence gnawed at me, and with every minute that passed, my unease grew. Had the surgery been successful? Was the baby okay? My mind refused to stop running in circles. I kept convincing myself that no news was good news, that hospitals were busy places, that everything would be fine. But deep down, the growing pit in my stomach told me something wasn't right. I had never been one to chase after information, but I couldn't sit there anymore, waiting for a call that never came. I opened Instagram, hoping to distract myself with something, anything to take my mind off the anxiety. As I mindlessly scrolled through posts, I noticed something strange. There was a new story from a mutual friend. Not from Julia's account, though. She had blocked me from viewing her stories, I assumed, to hide whatever she was planning. But this one was from someone else, someone she had forgotten to block. A pink circle appeared at the top of my feed, and my heart skipped a beat. Without thinking, I tapped it. The video that loaded wasn't from a hospital room. It wasn't from any emergency. No sterile walls, no machines beeping in the background, no sign of a life or death procedure. Instead, it was a ballroom, lavish, grand, and entirely out of place. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over a manicured garden, and the soft clinking of champagne glasses and bursts of laughter echoed through the air. My stomach turned, my pulse quickening as I realized something was very wrong. Then I heard Julia's voice. It was unmistakable, bright, upbeat, full of energy. Nothing like the distressed, desperate tone she had used just days before. I couldn't breathe as I listened to her laughter, her excitement. "Look at these ice sculptures," she said, panning the camera over a massive frozen swan. "Can you believe we actually pulled this off? Thank God for silent sponsors who are too stupid to ask questions." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Silent sponsors. Too stupid to ask questions, I froze. My thumb hovered over the screen as the reality began to sink in. The urgency, the terror in her voice when she had called me. The way she had begged me for money to save her baby's life, all of it was a lie. The hospital, the surgery, the risk to the baby, it was all made up. The $22,000 I had sent her, the savings I had built over 5 years of hard work. The future I had sacrificed for none of it had gone towards saving a life. It had gone toward this, a lavish baby shower, ice sculptures, imported flowers, champagne. Everything she had told me, everything I had believed, had been a lie. I replayed the video, my breath shallow, my heart racing. There she was, smiling, wearing a white silk dress, holding a flute of sparkling cider. She looked so healthy, so happy, so far removed from the woman who had been sobbing on the phone just 2 days ago. She was basking in the glow of the party, surrounded by expensive decorations and the kind of high society guests she was so desperate to impress. It was a perfect, beautiful picture, one I had never been a part of. But this picture wasn't what I had paid for. This wasn't what I had been led to believe. I sat in stunned silence, my mind reeling as the full weight of the betrayal crashed down on me. I had been manipulated. My emotions, my fears, for a child I had never even met, had been used against me. The money I had worked so hard to save, the sacrifices I had made, it had all been stolen. Not for a medical emergency, not to save a life, but to fund this false, extravagant display. The world around me felt like it was crumbling. My chest tightened with anger, with disbelief. How could she do this? How could she lie to me like this? She had stolen more than just my money. She had stolen my trust, my belief in family. She had used me. And in that moment, the person I thought she was, my sister, my family, died. Not in a literal sense, but in a way that felt just as final. I turned off the video, my hands shaking. I stared at the screen for a long time, the anger boiling in me. My sister wasn't the person I thought she was. She wasn't someone I could rely on. I had been a fool. And now I had to figure out what to do next. The betrayal hit me hard, but I knew I couldn't act on impulse. Anger was bubbling inside me, but if I was going to make Julia pay for what she had done, I needed to stay calm, stay methodical. I wasn't some emotional wreck. I was an operations manager. I dealt with risks, I identified discrepancies, and I solved problems. Now I had a problem to solve. I sat down at my desk, my mind clear for the first time in days. I needed evidence, proof. Julia's lies had unraveled in front of me, but I wasn't going to just let her off the hook. I needed to know exactly how deep this went, how far she'd gone to deceive me. I grabbed my phone, my hands steady now, and I started making calls. The first call was to the pediatric surgeon's office, the one Julia had told me was handling the baby's surgery. I dialed the number from the invoice she had sent me, pretending to be a concerned relative trying to follow up on an overdue bill. The phone rang twice before someone picked up, and I put on my best professional voice, asking to speak with someone in billing. Hello. I'm calling to pay the post-operative bill for patient Julia Anderson, I said, giving them the invoice number she had sent me. There was a pause on the other end. Then a woman's voice came back, confused. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we don't have any record of a patient by that name, and we don't perform fetal surgeries. I felt a cold smile creep across my face. Fraud confirmed. She had sent me a fake invoice. The specialist fee was never for a surgeon's hands. It was for a fabricated emergency. I thanked the woman, hung up, and took a deep breath. That was step one. Now I had the motive. I knew Julia had created a fake hospital bill to justify the $22,000. The next step was leverage. I needed to find where she had spent that money and how far she had gone to cover her tracks. I didn't confront her yet. That would be a mistake. I needed the paper trail. I needed everything lined up so when I made my move, it would be unstoppable. I made another call, this time to the venue where the baby shower was being held. I needed to know exactly how much money Julia had put down, what contracts she had signed, and whether she was in breach of any agreements. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I had been fooled once, but now I was in control. This wasn't about emotion. This was about strategy, and I was going to make her pay. The moment had arrived. The glass pavilion, the one I had secured with Julia's money, was now my domain. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the hum of conversation. It all felt distant as I stood near a pillar, watching everything unfold. Julia was a center of attention, gliding through the room like royalty, her hand resting protectively on her bump. She had no idea what was coming. The power dynamics in that room were shifting, and I was the one pulling the strings now. My $22,000 had paid for the lighting, the ice sculptures, the flowers, the entire extravagant display. Julia's plan had backfired, and I was ready to expose it. I watched her, move through the crowd laughing, accepting compliments from her in-laws who were clearly impressed by the opulence. But then I saw her glance in my direction. Her smile faltered for a split second, and I knew she realized something was off. She tried to shake it off, but it was too late. I wasn't the invisible sister anymore. I wasn't the one holding a glass of tap water in the corner. I walked into the open floor, feeling the eyes on me. The music cut out abruptly and the laughter died. Every head turned as the security guard Marcus blocked Julia's path. He handed her a clipboard, the one with my name on it. The contract she had thought she could ignore was now in her face. Her expression drained of color as she saw my name listed as the exclusive sponsor. She was caught. I leaned in close and whispered, "The venue, the party, even the air, it's all mine now." Her facade cracked. She stood frozen, the truth crashing down on her. The room was silent as I let her stew in her failure. And in that silence, I knew everything had changed. As I walked away from that ruined party, a strange sense of calm washed over me. I had done it. I had played my part, but more than that, I had taken control. I had exposed Julia for the fraud she was, and in doing so, I had reclaimed the power she thought she could steal from me. The $22,000 was no longer just a sum of money. It had become a symbol of everything I had endured, everything I had worked for, and everything I was willing to lose to finally stand up for myself. I watched as Julia's world crumbled as her lies unraveled in front of everyone. Her perfect little party turned into a spectacle of shame, and her carefully curated image was destroyed. It was the ultimate satisfaction. She had manipulated me, but in the end, it was her own greed that did her in. The fallout didn't just affect her, it affected everyone who had blindly supported her, including our mother, who couldn't ignore the truth anymore. Julia's marriage fell apart soon after, and the financial mess she'd left behind was too much for her husband to bear. The truth has a way of catching up with you no matter how carefully you hide it. As for me, I took the small refund from the venue and used it for my own down payment. That condo, though, empty, felt like the beginning of a new chapter 1, where I was in control. No more manipulation, no more being the invisible sister. I had learned that sometimes to survive, you have to embrace being the villain. If you've ever been in a situation where you had to take charge to survive, I'd love to hear your story. Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you've ever had to be the bad guy to get what you deserve. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.